Good morning, everybody. How we doing today?
Great, thank you.
And I can't believe I got this many people coming in here to listen to this old guy yammer on for a while. But you know, the basic preparedness class that I did, haven't done it for probably 10, 11 years. It was real big back then, but then we sort of backed off of it. People sort of lost interest in it. I know a lot of people felt safe for a while for whatever reason, might have been who's in Washington, but now we see the way things are going, so we got more and more new people coming into prepping, so we kind of dusted this one off. And starting off, you'll see a little piece of paper on the front of your outline. I am shamelessly promoting an event we're doing in Ohio next year. It's the Heartland Self-Reliance Conference. It's going to be in Millersburg, Ohio, the heart of Amish country. So I want to get that information out to you folks there. The website is not live right now. It should be up in the next couple of weeks. Then you can tear that off and file it appropriately, and we'll get down to business. Why do we need to be prepared? Everybody's got different reasons. See, a lot of folks here probably got family. I know that was a big reason for me. One thing that hit me a long time ago, for whatever reason, I had a thought come to mind. The thought was, could I ever face one of my kids or grandkids if they came up to me hungry because things had gone bad and we had prepared properly, and I knew better? I wasn't ready to face that. So we ramped things up, my wife and I. It took a while for us to mutually agree on things, and a lot of the kids still haven't. So we are preparing for them without any assistance from them. And I have no qualms about telling them, I don't care if you starve, but your kids aren't going to. Sometimes it takes a little tough love to get people on board. So whatever your reasons are, it's good to sit down and think about what they are, why you're doing it, and it might motivate you a little bit more to push forward. Risks. And I want to start off too, you know, I'm not telling you that I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about preparedness in the next 40 minutes or whatever. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to agree with everything I say. I'm not here for you to agree. How boring would that be if everybody in this room thought the same way I did? We wouldn't learn anything new. But what I do, if you do disagree with me, I hope at least what I'm saying provokes a little bit of thought on your part and makes you think a little bit about it and maybe improve your viewpoint on it or your standing in preparedness. So if you don't agree, that's fine. And if you want to hash something out, we probably won't have time here, but stop by the booth. Tell me, Jeff, you're an idiot. I totally disagree with you. And we'll have a good conversation. I like that. I like that sort of thing. That's what keeps me going. In every class I have taught, I always learn several things from the people in the classroom. So that's, to me, that's just a healthy way to go. Risks. So many people are worried about the big things. That's all they think about. EMP. Now, if you plan for EMP, you should be ready for just about anything. But there are so many other things that are more probable. I have a list of risks here. You know, one thing you got to consider whenever you're looking at these risks and evaluating what you need to be prepared for, you need to throw in there probability versus impact. How probable is it that this thing is going to happen? And if it does, what will the impact be? If you have something with a very low probability, but with a very high impact, such as an EMP or coronal mass ejection, yeah, you got to be concerned about it, but the probability is kind of low. Look at the risks that I have listed there, and these came from Franklin County, which is the county in Ohio that Columbus is in. They've got an outstanding emergency management agency and Department of Homeland Security there. I do a lot of things with them. And I got this from their website. These are the risks they have up there. Risk where you are may be different, but this ought to give you a good base to start from when you're considering the risks that you face. Look at all these now. Up in our area, tornadoes, decent probability. And the impact can be very severe. We've had some cities up there, just the little towns just about wiped out. We had a place here last week that got hit. Did a lot of damage, killed 3 people last I heard. So, you know, being prepared for a tornado is probably more important than an EMP. Just go down there and consider that if any of these might affect you where you are, there's something that you probably ought to take into consideration before you take the big stuff on. But EMPs and coronal mass ejections, we have had countries saying that they wanted to, their first opportunity, they were going to hit us with a high altitude electromagnetic pulse stack for years. Iran has said it. North Korea has said it. North Korea has some questionable satellites in orbit that we need to be concerned about. But one thing you got to remember, if they ever do that, our nuclear deterrent capability is still going to be able to launch. And I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been in the military, but I could probably guess, as most of us could, where those warheads are going to go if something like an EMP ever hits us. So we do have that standoff capability. You got to be concerned that they are going to, some country might try to do it and make it look like somebody else. So they're not the ones getting retaliated against. So yep, all that stuff, high impact, but the probability, yeah, that's questionable. I think we have more threats now, and they're not on here, threats to our food supply. Supply chain, those are things to be considered. Has anybody seen what's going on over in Europe with the farmers? Farmers over there have had it. Just like a lot of people here get to the point where they've had it. The farmers over there are rebelling, they're letting their feelings be known because they are being attacked on many fronts, whether it's tax on fuel, whether it's pesticide regulations. Meanwhile, that's driving their prices up, but then governments over there are bringing food in from Ukraine. And they have reached the breaking point over there, which is great. I think Canada will probably be next. And then hopefully one day folks in the United States are going to wake up. But that is, I'm hoping.
Save the dad joke for me.
At least some of us are going to wake up and be ready. But threats to the supply chain and our food, if we're not raising our own food, I think that's probability is a lot higher, and the impact's going to be significant if people can't eat. So, and if you can't feed your family, but other folks can't, what's going to happen? You need to be prepared to react to that. And some people may be willing to give away everything they had to help other folks. I'm always willing to help somebody, but my family comes first. My friends come first. So if you think about that in advance. Anybody have any questions on the risk?
One you don't have down here that's real serious is a grid failure.
I thought Columbus had that in theirs.
I didn't see it with my reading.
Yep.
We had one in Texas last year.
And our grid is failing. They have been putting the money they needed to in to keep it going and keep it up to date. So the grid is a big concern. Probability of something going wrong might not be across the entire United States, but certainly segments are going to be hit. We are starting to see a lot of improvements in the infrastructure up in our area. AEP is putting in some new towers and stuff in our area, trying to improve the transmission lines. But overall, when you look at the grid, I've been through some place in the country, I see the power lines there, and I don't know how they're still working. And I could get into a whole spiel about the power companies not wanting to do stuff and then keep charging us more and more. But the grid, that is, thanks for bringing that up, because that is a very big concern. And if you're not ready for it, it's a huge concern. Hopefully people would give that some forethought and be prepared. Grid can go down anytime, whether it's by a storm or whether the grid itself failing.
And also you have brownouts and blackouts for protracted periods.
Do you, where is that? Where are you experiencing?
We had one last summer down in the Tennessee area. TVA did rolling blackouts without notification, 6-hour periods. Now
I
that's
guess we're
not
pretty
going to
fortunate
kill
up in
you,
Ohio,
but it is a major disruption.
Yeah, I can imagine.
particularly if you have health needs that require equipment.
And, you know, that's with these companies, that's just not gonna go away, and they don't give a whole lot of concern to it. That's why, you know, we had a major outage in our area back in 2012. And after that, my wife said, hey, we gotta get a generator, got the generator. Didn't have to use it until 2 years ago. So it's like paying for insurance, but it was a great thing to have. But now power goes out, overall, it's not a big deal to us, we're ready to go. Try to work towards that. Don't rely on any of that stuff because you never know. Preparedness rules. I'm a rule guy, sorry. But you know what? The average person in the United States does not have the self-discipline to survive any kind of an event. Because they're gonna want to think about the old ways. They're gonna think, well, this isn't important. So it's always great to have some kind of rules to follow. Some of the preparedness rules with your plans, and I'm big on plans. When I was in the military for a while, I was a planner. If you don't write your plan down, it's not a plan, it's a thought. And thoughts can disappear. Your loved ones, if you don't show up, they can't read your thoughts. They need something to refer to. So it doesn't have to be real intricate, but put it down in writing so they know where stuff is, know what they have to do, and test your plans, make sure they work. I know I did that, I've done that a lot over the years. I think I have a pretty good plan, and then next thing you know, boom, something goes wrong. Time for a change. And if you got that in writing, you can go back in there and get it changed so everybody knows about it. Rules of three. When I first got into modern day prepping many years ago, heard people talking about rules of three, and every time somebody talked about one, it was different. So I've got 3 rules of 3. Imagine that, 3 rules of 3 that seem to apply. The first one, I hope everybody's heard this one. You can live 3 minutes without oxygen, and without oxygen, a lot of people think, well, you know, I'm not going to hold my breath, I'm not planning on drowning. Lack of proper medication is going to deprive you of oxygen. A bullet will deprive you of oxygen. A lot of things can deprive you of oxygen. So when you're doing your planning, maintaining that oxygen level is a big thing. And you need to consider everything that may affect it and be prepared for it. 3 hours without shelter if you're in any kind of severe weather. That's, and if something happens to the shelter you're in, the house you're in, you have the means to repair it. Very necessary. 3 days without water. A lot of people, and I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, and they always have guns and ammo, then they always have food. Comes to water, it's, oh, well, yeah, you know, we got some water stored in the basement. What if you can't get water from your water source? You don't have electric to run the well, municipal power's down, the municipal water system doesn't work. Where are you gonna get your water? You're not gonna live without water. You gotta make sure that you've got a water supply. 3 weeks without food. I know I might be kind of hangry for a while if I go 3 weeks without food. That's okay, because I know pretty soon I'm gonna start shutting down. I'm just gonna lay there like a lump until I move on. So make sure, put it in its proper place, but make sure that you've got your food supply taken care of. But make sure that you got it in order and get those other things above it. One thing I want to expound on a little bit, 3 minutes without oxygen. Any medical necessities. So many people, it kind of goes 2 ways. Some people will not have enough to handle what they might be facing. Other people have more stuff than they know how to use. Make sure that your medical supplies are judged accordingly. Make sure if you're getting it, you can use it. And be realistic about it. You know, that's we'll go a lot of places and, you know, they're selling esophageal airways. Do you know how to administer an esophageal airway? And if you're in a preparedness situation, if anybody's at the point where they need that, are you going to be able to do anything after that? Sometimes you gotta face the cold hard facts. That's like why people ask me in my get-home bag, I'm not carrying a tourniquet. If I get to the point where I'm having to get home during an emergency, I get hit that bad, chances are, I'm not gonna make it anyway. But I realize that, and I just plan accordingly for it. Second rule of 3. 3 is 2, 2 is 1, and 1 is done. Have redundancy. Make sure that you've got the depth where you need it. You know, if you're planning on cutting your own firewood, you got an axe and a saw, you better not have one. You better have multiple, because something will break. I guarantee you. Especially if you get out there, you're tired, you're trying to use it, you're gonna break something. And it's gonna be due to fatigue, it's gonna be due to you getting excited about something, but you're gonna break stuff. So always have that redundancy. Third rule of thumb, and this is one that the first time I heard it, I said, no, that ain't gonna happen, but then I started thinking about it, it probably will. Especially as our kids got older and they got their own families. Establish your core group. Our core group is about 20. Multiply by 3, and that's probably what you might end up with coming to ask for support from you. If you're not ready to give that, you better be ready to deal with it. It's not a good thing, it's not a fun thing. We had a daughter who was running her mouth about what our preparedness situation, and I told her, I said, okay, if something ever happens, you're gonna have your friends that you ran your mouth to are gonna be showing up here wanting us to help. You're gonna have to deal with it, I'm not going to. And you can't just deal with it. You can't just tell them, nope, we're not giving you anything. What are they going to do when they walk away and they start telling people, hey, they've got stuff over here and they're not giving us any? Sooner or later, that news is going to fall in the wrong ears, and you're going to have problems. Another thing under the rules, priorities of work. Anybody who's in the military knows what priorities of work are. And too many people, when they get tired, they get exhausted, they're going to forget what's most important. I'm going to tell you the one thing that is most important anytime you get in a preparedness type situation, that's security. And I always refer, I know Chris Weatherman's here, but I always refer to Franklin Horton and his books. I've been reading his books ever since I met him probably 7 years ago. A lot of teaching moments in there. If you do not maintain your security at all times, you're going to get caught short. Because what am I going to do? There's ex-military, any of the ex-military in here. If you have your stronghold, your house, you've got it fortified as much as you can, you've got folks out there, do you think I'm going to walk right in there and try to take your stuff? I'm going to sit back and watch. I'm going to watch and see which one of your group sets their rifle down and goes and does something else. You'll see it in every prepper novel out there. When does this stuff always happen? When they set their gun down someplace. And that's a real deal. In the military, my troops, I would go out there and watch them for hours on end. I could tell you which one was going to mess up first. I'm going to do the same thing if I'm coming trying to take your stuff from you. So always, security is the first. Then after security, you got to take care of things like hygiene. Did you get hurt? Did you get a scratch while you're out working that day? You better take care of that. You take care of that before you eat. You take care of that before you hydrate. You've got to go down the list. Security, hygiene, maintaining your weapons. That needs to be up there on the list. If you fell and jammed your muzzle in the mud while you were out working that day, get that taken care of that as quick as you can. Once you get on down the line and you've taken care of all that stuff that really isn't alleviating your pain or discomfort any, then you can take care of yourself. But make sure you always follow that. If you don't, I guarantee you will suffer the consequences sooner or later. Am I wrong?
You are completely right. I would say weapons maybe comes above hygiene.
Yeah, I would. Especially if you know you did something to it.
Shower for 3 days, you gotta keep that gun clean.
Noise, light, odor, and trash discipline. A lot of folks don't understand. Say, Jeff, you're just crazy. What are you talking about? Noise discipline. If you're out moving and you sound like Mr. Jingling coming through the woods, People off far distance away are gonna know what's coming at them. They're gonna know by the noise you're making that you're inexperienced and you're gonna be an easy target. Everything, be concerned about what you're doing. Running a generator if everybody else is out of power. You wanna take careful consideration. You don't wanna turn that generator on and leave it running 24 hours a day. If you absolutely have to run it the minimum necessary, get it shut down. Do whatever you can to muffle that sound. Light, during that period back in 2012 when we were without power for a while, when you saw a light on in a house, you could see it miles away and it really stuck out. If we're in a situation with no light, flashlights are going to be the same way. Don't be one of those folks that's got to light up everything. Use it only when you need it and as little as possible. Odor. What kind of odors can we be concerned about in a preparedness situation? Cigarettes, especially, boy, I tell you what, back in the days I smoked, if I hadn't had one for a couple days, I could smell a cigarette a mile away. Food. Food, you get in a preparedness situation, you're gonna have to cook all the food you can the first couple days. After that, you're not gonna want to create any food odors, because 3 days into it, people are gonna be running out of food. They're gonna be out looking for food. And as we did this we were chasing air crews through the woods up there when I was stationed in Michigan. And we had one guy that we could not catch. And we were about 4 days into the exercise. We put some of our guys in flight suits and started cooking steaks out in the woods over a campfire. And we had that going for about 45 minutes. All of a sudden, one of the spotters said, okay, I got him coming in from the east. And here's this air crew member, this captain. Brought him right in. Gotta watch those odors.
Can I mention something on that, by the way?
What's that?
On the odors part, I did post-Katrina recovery down in New Orleans, and it's the same thing in all the places there that we dealt with in Texas and Louisiana, where people were in their neighborhoods, they didn't have power, but they had food, but hadn't had power for a few days. There was these huge neighborhood cookouts. They thought it was all safe, let's all go cook our meat. It would spend like 72 hours into the incident, massive riots, a couple murders over it and stuff like that, just after 3 days. The first violence we saw was after day 3. First 2 days, nobody got murdered. Day 3.
And that's generally how it's gonna work. Maybe that should be another rule of 3.
Can you repeat that story so the rest of us can hear it, please?
Can you repeat that?
Yep. He was saying, down there when they were recovering from Katrina, a bunch of people were getting together and cooking their food 3 days into it, and thought there wouldn't be any issue with it. Cooking their food ended up actually causing riots because people outside that area who didn't have anything could smell it and came in after it.
But there were people murdered over it.
Yeah, and actually murders took place. So, folks, I can't tell you, you're not going to believe. We have anybody here? How many military folks we have in here? Prior military. Great, thank you for your service. How many law enforcement first responders? Cool. For the folks, none of you folks that never raise your hands, unless you've been through some extraordinary circumstances, I'm going to tell you, you have no idea the evil that is out there and the evil you will see if things go bad.
From your neighbors.
Yeah. You're going to see people turn ugly that you never would have thought. I have encountered people, mainly in the civilian law enforcement world, that even when I was in the military and running folks like this, I thought I was looking the devil in the eyes. You're going to run into that. Prepare yourself for it. When it comes to...
I just want to point out, when it comes to food, if you are using not dehydrated,
Dry
freeze-dried
food?
food, almost no odor.
Oh, yeah.
So people, if you're doing prep, go freeze-dried.
But you do, when a situation first kicks off, if you got a lot of food in the freezer,
Yeah.
and you don't have any other way to preserve it, try to get that cooked in the first day or 2. And if you have to give it out to neighbors, see if you make some friends, do whatever, but you get that stuff used up, don't let it go to waste. But don't plan on cooking it after that first couple days. Because depending on the area you're in, And you know the area you're in better than anybody, how quick do you think those folks are gonna turn? And all bets are off after 3 days, that's just what statistics have shown. So be ready. Ooh, that's a whole nother class.
That's a good discussion.
Yeah, if you want to stop by my booth later on, I'd be happy to talk to you about that, but I'm not kidding, that is a whole nother class. In this, I generally like to get along with everybody, but I have had vendors at some events take great offense to what I'm about to say, and I don't care. I don't care about them. I love my fellow vendors. I don't care about them, but I care about you folks. Do not buy junk. And there's some junk out there. Junk is gonna let you down. You're gonna waste your money. Find something, a reasonable alternative that is a little more reasonably priced. I'm not saying not watch your budget, but don't buy something that's gonna fail you. Yes, sir.
You didn't discuss trash.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Do you recommend burning, burying, or what?
Burying. You don't want to burn anything after the first couple days. And this, I think the other part I mentioned a little bit later, with trash, a lot of people never plan on what they're going to do with trash. Subsequently, they're not planning on having anything to take care of rodents. You better have your own pest control supplies built up because you're going to need them. But trash, bury it. Months into the situation, you can probably get away with burning it again. But same rules for burning goes with trash, because people smell something burning, you never know, and there's trash that you can end up smelling. It's going to have some kind of food odor to it, and that can draw folks in. Also, if the sewage system goes down, if you have a septic, you're in a little bit better shape. You're just going to need to have a way to get water, be able to flush toilets, do whatever. But with the sewage system down, you're going to need a way to take care of your human waste. What I recommend, make sure you got bags, make sure you got cat litter, got a 5-gallon bucket, then some bigger heavy-duty bags. Take the small bags, 13-gallon bags out of that 5-gallon bucket. When they get full, I'm not going to recommend after each use, because you're going to run out of bags. Throw them in a bigger bag, have a place where you can store that. Your primary concern there is going to be disease. If you don't have a way to properly take care of your waste, you're going to have some disease issues. So, always fun stuff to think about. Yes, sir. What's that?
No, our houses are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Our houses are yellow track flies, right back in.
Well, outhouses are still going to have issues, and if you're in an area, you can dig an outhouse. If you're out in a rural area, that's fine, but then you probably have septic, so you might still have water to use that. Because I know with our plans, we will just gather rainwater. We've got the capability to do that, so we're going to keep using our septic system. But if you're in the suburbs, I don't think you'll want to dig an outhouse, because you're allowed to have neighbors coming over using it, and that could lead into all kinds of stuff, but it depends on the situation. Another thing, don't buy junk. Don't buy something that you're not going to consume or use. I've seen people over the years buy all kinds of survival food. And I always ask them, so you ever taste that? How is it? Oh no, we're saving that for the EMP. We'll eat it then. You better check that stuff out in advance, because I tell you what, some of that stuff is pretty good. Some of it tastes like backside. So make sure that if you're getting food, getting supplies, try them out. If you've got long-term storage going on, make sure that you're periodically breaking some of that out and trying it out. Make sure it's still good. I know we have stored a lot of 6-gallon buckets full of dried products ourselves, and I monitor the dates on that. We're getting up to the 10-year mark on some of it. We're going to break some of that out this year. We're going to give it a try, just to make sure everything's still good. Make sure that see if we need to add anything to it to make it a little more consumable. Food fatigue is a problem. If you've got, don't be a little bit creative in what you have and how you're going to fix your food. A lot of folks, and I got a lot of folks in my family, one of them sitting out there at the booth right now, food fatigue. You know, a lot of folks don't like leftovers nowadays. You better be ready for it. You better be ready to liven up your food so people can find it palatable. Sooner or later, I claim, that's why I tell my family, sooner or later you're getting hungry enough you're going to eat. But could be a lot of misery on the way to that. Especially, did I mention I have 5 daughters? Could be a lot of misery. Make sure you have a preparedness notebook. I know all kinds of people that have all kinds of information on their computer. If it's important enough for you to save it on your computer, print it off, put it in a notebook, put it in a 3-ring binder so you've got it. You make sure you have it. Also recommend, this is another Franklin Horton hack here. Franklin Horton was down, used to always be down at Heritage Life Skills in Waynesville, North Carolina. He did a class on having a home manual. Great idea. You know all the quirks in your home better than anybody. You know where the stuff's stored. In our case, I know where the sheets of plywood, pieces of plywood that are cut out to fit in the windows are. I know how to do it. I need to have that in the manual in case I get capped on the way home. My family is going to be able to pull that manual out and they're going to know how to do everything. So consider doing that. Planning. I'm going to try to breeze through this one because it can be dry. Yeah, we still got a little time. Family Emergency Communications Plan. How many people here have ever looked at ready.gov? Don't see a whole lot of hands, folks. If I see you folks next year and I ask you how many have seen ready.gov, I expect to see hands flying up every place. The government, with all that I can say bad about it, ready.gov makes an effort. They get some good information out there. Every September is National Preparedness Month. How many knew that? Got a few more. They put some information out there every year. A few years back, I was doing some training of a company I work for, and I actually pumped out stuff on National Preparedness Month and pushed out what ready.gov had. They're pushing 72-hour kits. And I asked people, how many people paid any attention to that? How many people had 72-hour kits? Why do you suppose the federal government wants you to have a 72-hour kit? Because FEMA's not going to be there for you in 2 hours. If anything happens, and 72 hours is not a real long time, depending on the area you're in. I might have a 2-week kit, which is better anyway. But 72-hour kit, you can put it in a bag, something that you can pick up and run if you have to get out immediately. Say for some reason you have to evacuate your home and you're going into an unknown situation, going to be dependent on the Red Cross or local government or FEMA. Have that 72-hour kit. Build that 72-hour kit based on who you're going to have with you. If you got your wife, you got kids, your spouse, your kids, whatever, make sure that you got what they're going to need for that 72 hours in there. Feed them, shelter them, some way to provide warmth or something for them to sleep in, some food, any medicines, if any of them dependent on medicines, make sure you're going to throw that in there too. Because drugstore's probably not going to be open. You better take it with you. Plan for the risks. We already talked about them. Look at your local risks, what you're most probable to have problems with. Resources. Don't just look at the resources you have. Look at what resources are in the area you might be able to get. I'm not telling you to steal stuff. You can go out and ask. I could get hundreds of people say that I'm a law and order guy. They'll tell you that. They'll swear to it in court. I am. But if I'm in an emergency situation and somebody is not home, they're not coming home, and there's something to help my family survive, I'm going to take it, but I'm going to keep record of everything I take. So when it's over, if anybody comes to me saying, well, you were looting people's houses, I was taking stuff I needed, here's a record of it, and I will make amends as soon as I can. So don't turn into some of the scum, because I tell you what, I see whenever something serious happens, the cream is going to rise to the top. The good people are going to shine. The good people are going to be outstanding. What's going to happen to the folks that are already down here? Most of them aren't going to rise up. They're going to drop even lower. Be ready for that. Get your shareholders involved. We have a hard time with that, especially with some of our daughters. Some of our daughters think we're just stark raving lunatics for doing the stuff that we do. But if they want to be part of it, and then one thing that I suggest, if you have somebody that doesn't want to be part of it and keeps making remarks about what you're doing, just come right out and say, hey, you know, you're always cracking on this. I just want to know, for our planning purposes, if you don't want to be part of this, let us know. And we just won't plan on you getting any food, getting any care, getting anything. You can be out there on your own. We will take care of the people who want to get involved in this. Get the shareholders involved. Tough thing to do, but if you don't do it, your situation's going to be far worse, I guarantee you. Put it in writing. I already talked about testing your plans. We talked about that. Educate. Make sure you're educating the people in your group that are involved. Make sure they know what they're doing. One thing that I want to do in this event that we're having up in Ohio next year, I've been out talking to groups in Ohio, and there are so many people who are entirely new to this, and we're dealing with folks, they might know how to use a knife, don't know how to sharpen it. They went out and bought an axe because they thought you need an axe. They don't know how to take care of that. They don't know how to, you know, we have folks today, we collect stuff for local food bank, and a lot of times we'll have garden excess, and try to give it to the food bank, and the food bank said, most of the folks come in here don't know how to prepare fresh vegetables. That's what we're dealing with out there. One of the things we're wanting to do in this event is guide people, have a life skills thread of classes to guide people through all this stuff, so we can try to help people. We're going to have more advanced stuff too, but we want to help folks who just don't have a clue. Not going to force anybody that doesn't want one, but if they're wanting to learn, we want to give them an avenue to do that. Exercise and practice. You can't just teach somebody a class and expect them to react accordingly. I do map and compass classes. And I tell folks, okay, you sat through this class today. If you don't pick up that compass every day and go over what we went over, you're going to forget about it by next week. So make sure if you're teaching them how to do something, you repeat it enough that it gets ingrained so they're not forgetting it. Here, we already talked about everything in the 72-hour kit, I think. Getting home. I get some feedback because I always say, you know, there's different kinds of bags. You got the 72-hour kit, you got the get-home bag. A lot of people say, well, I've got a go bag, or I've got a bug-out bag. Some people say, I can use one bag for all those. You can't. Can't do it. You might think you can do it, but it's all different scenarios. Getting home, I know if I'm in my office, something happens, I've got 50 miles to go. I know about how long it's going to take me. I know if I don't move to this point, get past this point in the first day, my trip home is going to take longer because I'm going to have to go around a couple small towns because things are going to deteriorate. So you can kind of plan that. Bug out bag, unless you've got stuff cached along the way, or you've got a bug out location you're traveling to. If you have a bug out location you're traveling to, it makes it more like getting home. But I talk to so many people, a lot of people in the city. We're bugging out. Where are you going? We're going down the National Forest. Okay? Got a place down there you're going? Nope, we'll find a good place. We'll get you set up. Okay? Got any food cache or supplies cache along the way? What's that mean? Folks, if you don't have a plan in place on where you're bugging out to and have supplies build up, stay where you are. Do yourself a favor. But if you're just bugging out, I'll tell these folks that, you know, we're bugging out, we're going to National Forest. You can't carry nothing in your bug out bag. Be ready for that. They think because they've been through a couple classes on foraging wild edibles, they're going to make it. I had one gentleman tell me that he wasn't worried. He had 22 pistol. Just shoot a squirrel every couple days, and he'll make it. Said, you ever shot a squirrel with a 22 pistol? Nope, I know I can. I practice. Said, you ever shot a squirrel, period? Nope, I know I can do it. Buddy, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. Make sure that you know what you're getting into with whatever your plan is. Down to sheltering in place. What I recommend for most folks. You know what you got to work with there. You can fortify your area there. You can have supplies there. You can start working with neighbors if you got any decent neighbors. And I'll be quite frank with you, we got a neighbor down the road, a lot of our neighbors are relatives. That can be bad too. We got a neighbor down the road, know him, know his family, work with them. I know what they're all about. We're probably gonna, if anything ever gets real serious, we're gonna have to be prepared to take a preemptive action to make sure we don't have problems with them. May sound cold-blooded, but I tell you what, you know folks, you know what they're gonna do. Be ready for it. Don't be shy about it. And think about it in advance. Some people may not be prepared to do that. They may not want to do that. But my whole last 45 years, whether it's military or law enforcement, the only thing I'm worried about is making sure I go home at the end of the day. And when it comes to protecting my family too, I'm not going to think twice. I'm going to take care of me and mine. Sheltering in place, security. You can do a lot of things to improve your security. Whether it's working on your house like we do, we got plywood cut up, put in the windows, just to make it harder for somebody to get in there. Look at the avenues of approach to your house. Depending on where you are, you can pretty much tell. Always think about when you're trying to fortify an area, put yourself on in the role of somebody who's trying to get in and take your stuff. How are you going to do it? Which way are you going to go? When you do that, you're going to be able to see what you need to work on. I know with our area, we've got a couple little hollers. One cuts through the middle of the property, one comes up from behind. I'm going to make it so they're not going to have such a good time trying to get through that. You get some old rusty, nasty barbed wire, get anything, make some tanglefoot, make it difficult for them to get through there. You're not going to stop them, but maybe you're going to make them make some noise while they're getting through there. Give you something that alerts you that you got somebody coming there. We'll also get into, look at the areas where somebody could sit and watch you and watch what you're doing. I think I threw this in there someplace about, I think it's the surveillance, counter surveillance. I already told you, if I'm coming to take your stuff, I'm going to sit someplace and watch you and figure out what's going on. You need to know where those spots are. Go out there and check them occasionally. One job I had previous to this job, ran security at a private estate. And I started talking to them about doing surveillance and counter surveillance. We get all of us were armed, had dogs. We would send somebody out to these points where somebody could sit and watch the house. And everybody, my guys were saying, oh, this is a bunch of BS. We're never going to find anything here. One day I get a call. It's like 11 o'clock at night. One of my guys went out and he said, hey, I hit one of the spots where you can see the house. There's cigarette butts up here. That's what we're looking for. Nobody on our team smoked. Somebody was up there that made it where they could see the house, and they were sitting up there smoking. He said he found 3 butts, so they were up there for a little bit. So plan on doing that same thing for your home. You're getting fortified. Watch where these people can watch. And if you know where they're coming in to watch, you're going to be able to react accordingly. Everybody catch that? You're going to be able to react accordingly. Okay, we already talked about ways. First three days in any situation, if you're in the city, things are going to get bad quick because you're going to have all the folks out there on this end of the spectrum are going to start saying, oh, wait a minute, as soon as they figure out law enforcement can't respond or people can't call for help, things are going to be on. But they're going to hit the easy ones first. We have any trout fishermen in here? Fishing the river? Where you go find the big trout? You go find them out in the mainstream where the water's flowing fast? They're going to be sitting there where the food's going to come to them and the getting's easy, right? Bad guys going to be the same way. Go where the getting's easy. First thing's going to be all the stores, big box stores. They're going to hit them. They're going to hit the liquor stores. They're going to hit every place where they can get stuff easy. Then when they get through all that, they're going to be thinking, where else can we go? So first 3 days, bad guys are going to be focused on something else. It's time for you to do what you got to do. Cook that food out of the freezer. Try to get some plans together. Try to fortify your stronghold there. Do what you got to do in those first 3 days. Be ready after that. First 30 days. After that first 3 days, you're going to have to be prepared to feed yourself. Do everything basically without making noise, without making any odors. Have some food that you can eat that doesn't require cooking. Because, you know, people think, well, I can cook in the basement and the smell won't get outside. Don't rely on that. Because it's hard to recover when you make a mistake and you got folks showing up at the door trying to knock it down and get your food. First 30 days, your waste, we already talked about that. If you're having to stay inside, maintain a low profile, staying so quiet that it looks like nothing's going on. That's what your goal is. Hopefully after the first 30 days, a lot of the riffraff is going to work their way out. They're going to meet their fate. And hopefully there will be a little bit of return to normalcy. Not saying, depending on the area, not saying it will, but plan on at least 30 days being able to stay undercover and doing as little as possible. Long term, there are a number of events, EMPs are one, coronal mass ejection could do it, where we could be out of commission for a long time. Are you ready for that? And another thing doing my event, bringing preparedness and homesteading together, because, you know, for many years it was, and I know people in the preparedness world now, the who are speakers, that will tell you, homesteaders don't know what they're doing. They're not going to be able to raise food, people are going to come in and take it. Okay, a year down the road, after you have used up everything you have stored, or in some cases, I know people are stored out to 5 years, when you run out of that, you better know how to grow. You better know what your ground is going to grow. You better have all that worked out in advance. Because if you don't, you're going to fail. So make sure that you have a long-term plan, long-term water, long-term medical. A lot of people I'll see, they say, we're prepared for long-term. I say, good. What are you going to do when the clothes you're wearing wear out? Huh? Get some extra t-shirts, get some extra underwear, some extra socks, get some extra pants, whatever. Have those stored away too. Make sure you're probably getting sizes a little bit smaller because you're going to lose some weight. But make sure that you've got something. If you're looking for long-term, if you're looking for resiliency, looking to get back to being normal, you got to have long-term plans and make sure that you're ready to handle anything there. Comes to growing stuff. How many people here have a garden? Woo, man, look at that. Look at that. That is good. A lot of people, I've run into these folks and say, I'm not worried about anything happening. I've got a garden. We'll just kick it in high and we'll feed the family. You ever tried that? Doesn't work.
Doesn't work as easy as you think, that's for sure.
And then they showed me the packets of seeds that they got from Walmart. So, okay, where's the other case of those seeds that you're going to need? Because that packet ain't going to do diddly. Make sure you know how much seed it takes to grow something, and make sure that you've got enough to get you somewhere, to get what you're doing. Make sure you're rotating that seed out so you don't get stuck with a bunch of old seed. Don't throw old seed away, throw it out someplace, see if it grows, if you get in that situation. But plan for all that stuff. We're almost up to time, and I'm about at the end. Anybody have any questions? Yeah. That's, you need to have a plan for that too. A lot of people don't consider that. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. What are you going to do potentially with all the bodies that you may have laying around the property if you are well prepared? Yep, and personally, what I'm going to do, and I learned this from studying our enemies in the past, I'm going to get them away from the area we live in, and I'm going to put them someplace where folks who might be coming in to take my stuff are going to see them. There you go. And if you're JoJo that's going to come in and try to take Bob's stuff from him, and you see that other folks have tried it and it didn't work out too well, there's probably easier targets out there. And I hate to send them someplace else because you're obviously able to take care of them, but it's all about you. Take care of you and yours. And I've heard folks say they're gonna plan, they're gonna bury them, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. You're expending energy. Energy is burning up food, it's burning up water, it's burning up resources. So think about it.
What's the separation distance that you need?
It depends on what kind of area you're gonna need to use around there.
Well, there's nothing that's any worse than the smell of a dead body.
And consider that too, consider your average wind direction. Because normally, I'm not gonna put anything to the west or southwest too close, because that's usually where our wind's coming from. And I'm gonna wanna have a distance away. Personally, I know where it's gonna go. I'm gonna wanna get it, it'll be, if I have the ability to transport them, it's gonna be 2 miles away from the house where people are coming out of town or coming off of the state route. Yeah,
But it takes compost
if
time.
you have time to let them. There's all kinds of options, make sure you think about it. Yes, ma'am.
Southern Prepper One, he commented, I don't know, a year or two ago, that if you're in such a situation and you have loved ones who died,
Mhm.
he suggested pre-digging and loosening up the ground, especially for winter burials. So, another thing, if you got extra time in hand, get that backhoe out, right?
And that is a good thought too, to always have, we do the same thing, going into winter, if we know we have some of the animals that aren't gonna make it. Make sure you got an area that's loosened up that you could plant them. With me, I don't care what they do with me if I'm gone. Take me out there and put me in a very unique pose, waiting for the folks to come out from town. I'm good with that, doesn't matter, but think about what you're comfortable doing with possible loved ones you may pass on. Good point, thank you.
Yep.
To add a little more to the family side of that is we all have family members that are acceptable or not acceptable. Some are attached to those that are acceptable, or we would not let them walk away from the gate, not to mention the neighbors. So you have to be very conscious of who you allow to see what you have and who you're allowed to let walk away, because that one person might be innocent as can be, but the group that's watching is not. So
Very good point. And that's family, friends, neighbors, it's all very touchy. And I know people who think that they have done a really good job of concealing their preps, but there's always something that gives it away. And I think about that too when FedEx is bringing me 1,000 rounds of 5.56. The FedEx guy is gonna be on the watch list. Things go bad. I know he lives 30 miles away from us if I see him coming down the road. Sorry, dude, but you got valuable information. I can't let you get this close. But there's all kinds of avenues, and something we don't talk about here, but ComSec and OPSEC, communication security, operations security. Be aware of what you may be doing is going to let somebody else know what you're doing. Be careful what you're talking about. On the OPSEC side of operations security, so many people do things that they think nobody else is going to know what they're doing. Yeah, the average idiot might not know, but the person you got to worry about is going to know. They're going to see, and you're going to stick out like a sore thumb when they see it happening. So be careful of everything you're doing, who you're letting know, who's in on it, or who may be in a position to see anything that you're doing.
What are your thoughts on heating in the middle of winter time? I mean, sure you can start a fire, but now you're showing everybody else you're there. What's some good ideas for that? I mean, we're talking, I'm Ohio.
We're out in Ohio?
Mansfield,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Columbus.
That's the big thing. Heating's a wonderful thing, so is cooling. We're gonna have to make some adjustments. That's why I've got some really good sleeping bags. If it's at a time and we've got a wood burning furnace along with our electric furnace, so we could go all winter long and stay nice and warm. But when you're in a time where you don't want to attract people, because the thing about people are out there freezing in the middle of winter and they smell wood smoke. The only thing that I have seen that I would suggest, and I have had to respond to family members who had outages and weren't prepared, I've got little propane heaters and a lot of little propane bottles, and those have done a pretty good job. Not most of the odors contained within the house. You got to be careful, make sure they have an oxygen sensor on them so they don't kill you. but but still, I would use those sparingly. Make sure you got warm clothes, make sure you got good sleeping bags, that's your best bet.
And you
best way
stay
to go.
dry.
Hmm?
Stay dry.
Change your socks. Watch how.
We done? People, thank you very much, I have enjoyed this. Thanks for coming out.
Real quick before you go, announcement just real quick before, he's got one last question I want to ask him and you want to hear the answer to it. But the next demonstration that will be in here will actually be by William Bond, but that will be on soil. That won't be until 11:30. We're getting ready to start at 11. Is building your bug out bag with Gary Goldman over on the stage in the back side of the big venue there. I strongly suggest seeing that. If you haven't seen it, this guy has actually lived off like naked in the woods in Brazil for 222 days. And now he's teaching us a course on building bug out bags. Hopefully he includes clothing in his bug out bag now. But on that line, on clothing, and you talk about staying warm in the winter, what's your theory on extra clothes and stocking up? But footwear is one of the things we also do and don't have enough of. And if you have children, we think of that too. Buy 2-3 sizes up for your children on what they're going to grow into, right, for the winter boots. But on the security part, what about dogs? What's your opinion on that?
Love dogs. They require a lot of extra planning. How you gonna feed them? How you gonna care for them? Hmm? Yeah, well, yeah, if you got the neighbor to cook up, that's great. Let them go for it. But canines, if you're planning to use canines in your plan, make sure you're using them accordingly. If things go bad and you turn a dog loose on somebody, you think he's gonna hesitate to kill that dog? And then you've lost a valuable resource. I would plan mostly on using those dogs for detection as opposed to actually going out and engaging somebody. Because we have a Doberman and 95 pounds. He could definitely put a hurting on somebody, but he is a real asset because that dog has one of the best ranges I've ever seen. He can see something 600-700 yards away, it catches his attention. Can you guys do that? He will see something, I'll see those ears perk up, and he'll go to the window and he'll look, and you'll hear this little, and I'll start looking at, there's nothing out here, dummy, and then I notice something way over on the hill across the road. Detection, one of the best things you can use them for. Take care of them, because their senses are so much better than yours. Use them for that. And if it ever gets really bad, I'm sure they're going to try to protect you, but don't put them in harm's way and make sure you're able to take care of them.
Thank you, Jeff. And where's your booth out here that they can find you?
Right down here, go to the right. We're down there on the left, right in the middle. Everyday Prepper, come on by and see us.